All right, let's talk about one of the wildest, most colorful times in music history. We're jumping back to the 1970s to dig into the story of glam rock, this huge explosion of glitter, style, and just pure rebellion. So let's get right into it. The answer is you get glam rock. And believe me, this was so much more than just music. It was like pure theater mixed with a dose of science fiction, all with one mission: break every single rule in the book. It was loud, it was flashy, and honestly, it was a totally unforgettable spectacle.
Okay, so where did all this sparkle even come from? Well, to really get what glam rock was all about, you've got to understand what it was pushing back against. This wasn't just some new fashion trend. Nope, this was a full-on, glittery rebellion.
So, what is glam rock? At its heart, it was this music and fashion movement that blew up in the early 1970s. The two words you really need to remember are theatrical and over the top. I mean, how the artists looked was just as important as the music they played. The whole point was to create an absolutely spectacular show. And to really see how different it was, you have to picture what came before it. The late 1960s? That was all about serious folk and rock musicians, wearing jeans and t-shirts, pretty down to earth. Glam rock just completely flipped that script. It was all about being fun, optimistic, totally artificial, and theatrical. It wasn't just about the music anymore. The entire show was what mattered. And you know what's crazy? It all happened so fast. This whole thing just exploded in a couple of years, starting out over in the UK. The big moment, the one that really lit the fuse, was in 1971. A musician named Mark Bolan went on TV with some glitter on his face, and bam, that kicked off a trend that went global like overnight. Okay, you absolutely cannot talk about glam rock without getting into the fashion. It was everything. So let's open up the ultimate glam lookbook and see what was inside. The clothes in glam rock had one job and one job only: to get you noticed. Everything had to be shiny, reflective, anything that would patch the stage lights. We're talking skin-tight jumpsuits made of satin, ridiculously wide flared trousers, and jackets just covered in sequins. It was pure drama. They even wore capes and feathered boas. And they used futuristic stuff like leather and PVC to get that edgy space-age vibe. But if there's one single item that just screams glam rock, it's gotta be the platform boot. And these were not just shoes, okay? They were a statement. The soles were so thick, they made the performers look like giants. It made them seem larger than life, almost like superheroes or aliens that had just beamed down onto the stage. Makeup was also a huge deal. And this is key. It wasn't just for the women. Guys and girls both piled on the glitter, the heavy eyeliner, the super bold eyeshadows. Some would even paint cool shapes on their faces, like lightning bolts. The whole point was not to look natural. The goal was to look like you just stepped out of a comic book or a sci-fi movie. And the hair? Oh, the hair was just as wild. The most iconic cut was probably the mullet, short on the sides, long in the back, but they dye it these crazy, unnatural colors, like bright orange or hot pink. And they used so much hairspray to get these spiky, gravity-defying styles. It was the complete opposite of that long, natural hippie hair from the 60s. So who were the brilliant minds behind this alien invasion of style? Let's talk about the absolute icons who became the faces of glam rock. All right, let's name some names. You could say it all started with Mark Bolan, the guy with that first splash of glitter. But then there was David Bowie. He took the whole idea and launched it into space with his alien rock star character, Ziggy Stardust. You also had the amazing Elton John with his wild stage costumes and even wilder glasses. And then there were bands like Slade and Sweet, who basically lived in platform boots and shiny outfits. But you see, this was so much more than just looking cool on stage. Glam rock had this huge cultural impact because it wasn't just breaking the rules of fashion, it was breaking the rules of society. Here's how. Glam rock totally messed with people's ideas about what it meant to be a man or a woman. You had these male rock stars, right? And they were rocking makeup, high heels, and super colorful outfits, stuff that, back then, was usually seen as just for women. It sent this really powerful message. Hey, you can be whoever you want to be. You can express yourself however you want, and who cares about expectations? Even the fabrics they used were part of this rebellion. They loved using new, man-made materials. Like, ever heard of lurex? It's a fabric that literally has shiny metallic threads woven right into it for maximum sparkle. That, plus satin, velvet, and fake fur, all these materials were picked for one reason: how they looked on stage. Let's just say comfort was definitely not the top priority. And this whole scene really connected with teenagers. You have to remember, life in the UK in the early 70s was kind of drab and tough. So glam rock was this amazing escape from all that, from the boredom of school and just normal life. It gave kids a way to stand out and show who they were. The fans didn't just listen to the music, they lived it. They copied the looks, and that created this awesome sense of community and belonging. Now, the peak of glam rock might have been pretty short, but wow, its influence was huge. And you can still see it everywhere today. So let's talk about its legacy and see how glam rock is still alive and kicking. I mean, you can draw a straight line from glam rock to so many other types of music. Think about the 80s. You had new wave artists who were all about style and looking cool. Then you had hair metal bands who took the big hair and flashy clothes and turned it up to 11. And just look at pop music today. Anytime you see a star create a whole new character or wear these insane theatrical costumes for a tour, yep, that's a page right out of the glam rock playbook. And really, that's the biggest lesson from glam rock. It proved that music is about so much more than just the sound. It's about the image, the performance, the character. It's a total visual experience. It basically changed the game forever, turning a rock show into a massive, unforgettable spectacle. So I'll leave you with this question. When you look at the pop stars out there today, with all their crazy costumes and huge stage shows, who do you think has been borrowing from the glam rock playbook? It's pretty amazing when you start to notice how much of that glittery rebellion is still around all these years later.